Hi there, my name is Fernando Machado, and I am the Global Chief Marketing Officer for Restaurant Brands International. We have three brands here at Restaurant Brands International. We have Burger King, which is the largest brand, kind of like the brand that everyone knows. But we also have Popeyes, which is a fried chicken brand that has been like a massive hit over the recent past. And we also have Tim Hortons, which is a big, good coffee brand that's very strong in Canada, but also has an international footprint. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you guys today. I'll share a little bit of my perspective in terms of creativity, some of the campaigns that I judged on the IPA, on how we've been through this crazy year that has affected all of us and surely has affected our brand since we are in the hospitality industry, and that was one of the industry most affected by the pandemic. Okay, so let's do this. So first, let me talk a little bit about how we go in terms of our approach in marketing. I think that Burger King has built a reputation for itself around doing like bold, edgy, very creative ideas, and that has been working well for us. Over the past, I mean, I'm discounting 2020 because I cannot talk about those results yet since they're not public. But if you look at 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, we've been growing more than the market average. We've been growing more in terms of total global sales than our main competitor. And surely it's not just about advertising. There are many other things that we're doing, improving restaurant image, improving franchisee profitability, expanding the brand globally. But creativity has been one of the driving force behind that. Reality is that and I'm sorry to break it for you, no one wants to watch your ads. You know, like unless you are the Super Bowl or unless you are John Lewis during Christmas, people are not like sitting on their couch anymore, waiting anxiously to watch your TV campaigns. The clutter of information out there is massive. People are very distracted. If you are anything like me, you're watching TV, holding your cell phone on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, and the span of attention of everyone is very limited. So if you want to cut through the clutter, and if you don't want to rely on insanely large amounts of budget, which most marketeers don't have, you need to do things that are bold, that are edgy, that will hit a nerve, whether that's funny or makes you emotional or makes you reflect about life, whatever it is. Like you need to trigger an emotion and stand out. Else, like you'll not be able to cut through. So for me, doing something that's bold, that's edgy, that's out there, that works really well for Burger King because that's the personality of the brand. But the need to stand out and to do something that's different, to do something that will get talked about, that will get organic media coverage, I think is pretty much necessary, regardless of the brand you are or the category you are in. If you want to be relevant these days, you need to push the boundaries of creativity and do work that will get noticed. And if you don't get noticed, then all the rest of the stuff is just theory because it doesn't really matter. You know, if people don't even realize you exist, it doesn't matter what you're saying because they're not going to hear. So yes, I think you should go all in when it comes to creative. So a question that I usually get is how like how do I handle the discomfort of doing an idea that might be a little bit out there, and most importantly, how do I sell that idea in? Look, I mean, I think it's fair to say that you need to start small. You know, like the first idea that we've done for Burger King 7 years ago when I started was not Moldy Whopper, was not Whopper the Tour. We started with ideas that were a little bit simpler so that we could build our credibility and so that we could prove to the organization that doing those type of ideas will pay off. You know, that's worth doing. Um, but even before we get into that, I think it's really important that you have a common understanding in your company about what the brand is about, what the brand stands for, what are the values and personality of the brand. That to me is like step number one. And then step number two is to have clarity in terms of what's the strategy for your company and your brand. What are you trying to accomplish, and how are you going to measure success? And I'm saying those things because every time I'm seeing an idea, the first filter I use is this idea on brand? The second fit is this idea helping me accomplish my objective, like get me close to my strategic objectives? And third, is the idea any good? Like, and that's basically like creative criteria and understanding of our guest, of your consumer, so that you are able to judge that. And I think that if an idea is on brand, if an idea is helping you achieve your strategy, and if you're starting small so that people start to get used to a certain level of not being comfortable, then do it. Do it, start small, do one. Oh, it works. You see, like the KPI, the targets that you set for yourself that are aligned with the strategy, you deliver. So do another one and another one. And maybe one is not going to work so well, and there will be some learnings, and you should be humble about that. And then suddenly you'll be doing two of them at the same time and three of them. And then you get into a rhythm, and the whole organization starts to feel more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That was our journey here. Like we started doing like one thing, and proving the case, and then doing another thing and another thing. And we definitely didn't get all things that we've done right, but we were humble about it, learned from it, and made it better the next time. And then over the course of a couple of years, you get into a rhythm, you build your credibility, and you're able to make people more comfortable with being uncomfortable. When I say that I need to be uncomfortable, it's because the feeling of being uncomfortable, I see it as a good thing. It probably means that we are doing something that has never been done before. It probably means that we are stepping into uncharted territory, which tend to be the ideas that work the best for our brands here. So hopefully this advice it helps you. I think that the main thing there is start small, but start. So it was a real honor to judge the IPA this year. It was my first time doing that, and the panel was like very, very strong. I think that the jury is strong when throughout the discussion you end up like changing your mind about things. Right? We are all very confident about the work we do, and we are all a little bit stubborn to some extent. So when you change your mind based on discussion, I think it's a good thing, and only shows how strong the jury is. In at least from my perspective, and in the end, I felt that most people in the jury felt the same way. The ideas that tend to rise to the top were ideas that, or campaigns that have presented some sort of consistency over time. Like brands that have been doing things again and again and again and doing it better every time, and carving out a space on consumer minds that they can occupy. And I think that's really important. Like here at BK, at Burger King, we do lots of things, but we are always hitting the same nerve or trying to hit the same nerve in terms of like being fun, being bold, being a challenger brand. So we start to occupy that space on consumer minds. And I think that the things that I felt were most powerful were things that were rooted on a human truth or clear understanding of consumer behavior, and that the brand was able to replicate, scale, and explore over time, year after year. And I think that we can all benefit from that. It's a challenge because the tenure of CMOs tends to be limited. I've been here for 7 years, so I feel very lucky about that. But you need to achieve some consistency so that things stick on people's minds, and I think that's really important. And you're going to see on the results of the IPA that we all seem to agree on that one. So I think that a very common mistake that all of us marketeers do, and I did myself a couple of times, is to we always like to leave our mark. Like we all always like to do new things, and it's not uncommon for marketeers to forget about the core of their brand or core products of the brand. I think that, and it's funny because the more successful you are and the better the results are, the more we feel tempted to expand the brand further. And at times, because we always play a limited budget game, at times you may risk leaving your core exposed. I did that. I did a couple of those mistakes when I was at Unilever. I did that mistake a couple of times in my beginning at Burger King. And I've seen it happening again and again and again. It's a very common mistake in marketing. And I think that one of the challenges that we have is how to reinvigorate the core, how to keep the core modern, and how to keep the core exciting. In our case at Burger King, we do a lot of that around the Whopper. The Whopper is a sandwich that has been in the marketplace since 1957. Most of our best ideas, they revolve around the Whopper, and I think that's very helpful. When I was working at Unilever on Dove, same thing. Dove Bar still is the center of gravity of the brand, and you need to keep investing there. You cannot be just addicted to innovation. Like if you're a Coca-Cola, you need to invest behind the Coke brand. So not forgetting the core is really important, and making the core sexy and exciting, and having the agency wanting to do great work for core is important. We tend to use in Brazil, I'm Brazilian, probably can tell based on my funny accent, but in Brazil we say that we need to be careful with the small blanket, right? I mean, when you are cold and you have a small blanket, you cover your head, then your feet are cold, and you cover your feet, your head is cold. This is pretty much how we play with our budget. So in a small blanket game, make sure that your core is warm, because usually the core declines faster, then your satellite thing or your new innovation will grow. And that can really hurt your business in the short and on the long run.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I'm delighted that Fernando Machado could join me now as well to take some of your questions. And I see you're on brand with your top as well. Can I start with, what was your biggest creative failure then?
Oh my God. Now, thanks for having me, first of all. Like, biggest creative, that's the thing. Like, usually when we do something that's creative and it doesn't work, the consequences that we end up like not in the level of talkability or the level of like media coverage that we are hoping for. But it never has like it never had like a significant negative impact for the business or for the brand attribute. So it doesn't hurt, like that's the thing. Like I think that many people are scared of like taking the leap of faith and doing something different. Might be a little bit maybe, and they don't realize that usually the worst that can happen is nothing. And nothing tends to be a very common outcome of many marketing campaigns, so you may as well do something different. I think that if I what's my biggest like business failure, it happened a couple of times, and I alluded to that on the presentation, where I think that we had ourselves too thin, or we try to stretch the brand too much, and end up like not focusing as much on the core, and launched kind of like a new platform to make it, and end up like losing our customers faster than we were acquiring new customers. But creatively, like when something doesn't work, it's just like there is not much of a downside, to be honest.
Okay. I'm going to put two questions together. Obviously, COVID is on everyone's minds. Which aspects of your brand did you lean into when COVID struck? And how far has the events of the pandemic made you rethink risky ad strategies?
Yeah, so I think that when the pandemic started, our different markets affected like different time. It started in Asia, and then it hit us like in Europe, and then it started to hit us in the Americas. So we had a lot of learning from the markets that were from the pandemic first. I think that we all took the collective of putting aside our entire marketing plan and rebuilding a new marketing plan from scratch because the context has changed completely, right? And I think that the base of that marketing plan has been leveraging our brand to help people in communities, which I think it makes a ton of sense. And I think that all the brands and companies that did what they had that aspect of the work permeating on everything that they did. So the first thing we did was like to leverage the brands to help people in communities. Then we moved to have communication on top of that was like very didactic because back then, it feels like ages ago, but I'm talking of March. Back then, there was a lot of confusion. You know what I mean? People didn't know if the restaurants were open. People didn't know if it would be safe to buy in QSR. So we had a lot of very bottom of the Maslow pyramid type of advertising to explain to people open that we had new restaurant, that it was a safe choice, all those things. And then we started to infuse back more aggressively, I would say, the values and personalities of our brands. The world was very doom and gloom. If you were anything like me, you had CNN on quite a lot, and it was painting the picture of the apocalypse on CNN. So we felt that our brands also had the opportunity to bring a smile to people's face, because fast food is fun, and we have fun brands. So that has been journey. We always look into it, and we always have the finger in the pulse of our fans and our consumers. When it comes to risk, to me, risk is relative. You know what I mean? I don't really about, oh, this is risky, not risky. I think that in a world where we live, where people don't pay attention to anything, and where most of my competitors have more budget than I have, I need to stand out, but stand out not for the sake of just standing out, but stand out and help me fulfill one of the strategic objectives we have. So, to me, the biggest risk is to do something that no one notices, you know what I mean? And no one cares about. And then you're wasting money. So I never felt oh, we need to not take risks now, because no, we see risk in a slightly different way, I would say.
Interesting. And one more question I'm going to definitely get in. What advice would you give agencies who are struggling to get their clients to feel okay being uncomfortable?
I think that first thing, it would help if the agency truly understands what goes on the client side, understand their business, understand what makes people tick internally, and help the client start small. We don't start by doing a Moldy Whopper or a Whopper the tour, right? Not even us. We haven't started that way. We started doing smaller things, proving the case, building credibility, showing that creativity can help you achieve a stronger objective, achieve a stronger result when it comes to your objectives, and you start to feel more comfortable. It's a journey. You don't go from zero to doing Moldy Whopper on first year. So I think that if I were on the agency side, I would try my best to really understand what's going on the client side, what are the objectives of the client, what does make people tick internally, what are the strategic things that they are trying to accomplish, and then I would bring ideas that help them accomplish that. Ideas that be a social media post, a print ad, a radio ad. It doesn't have to be a Super Bowl campaign, and I would build the case for creativity over time, and bring people along on that journey.
I'm going to try and sneak in one, if you can give me a concise answer.
Let's do it.
To back your marketing investment?
Sorry, say that again.
How do you persuade the wider board to back your marketing investment?
I think that it's the same answer. We start by doing something small, proving the case that creativity can lead to a better outcome, get people more comfortable with that, and then suddenly you do it again and do it one more time, and then at some point you're doing 2 at the same time, 3 at the same time, and then eventually you reach a tipping point that your board will be frustrated if you're not doing something that makes them uncomfortable. That has been our journey here. I think that if I show an idea that falls flat, even my boss, who's the CEO, he will look at me and say man, this is even it doesn't make me scared at all. Are you sure about it? You know what I mean? And it's a journey, and I think you need to hold hands and take people through the journey, build your credibility, build the case for creativity, show that we lead to results, and then over time, more people to embrace it.
Fantastic. Fernando Machado, thank you for giving such a concise answer, such a big question, and for all the questions you covered. Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to hand over now to Tom and Anushka.